I did not know Rennie Harlin was still making so many movies. And hey, at least this time Ben Kingsley is in the movie more than just one scene.
Looked like you wanted to take a swing at me over that flap check. Isn't that how you got bounced out of the Air Force?
That senior officer had it coming. You're annoying.
Rennie Harlin is back with another movie this year as the director of Deep Water. The last movie I think I really liked of his that I've seen was 1990's Deep Blue Sea. I think that's just a fun, cheesy shark movie. It had a lot of great kills in it. And also happened to be a shark movie like this one. But instead of a research outpost, we have a flight from LA to Shanghai that is piloted by Ben, played by Aaron Eckhart from Dark Knight. London Has Fallen. You also have Ben Kingsley here playing the pilot Rich. He was recently in Desert Warrior, which was, I guess, one of the biggest disasters and lost a lot of money because it cost $150 million to make. And I don't know if it made $1 million at the box office. He was also in Wonder Man TV show, which I still need to watch because I've heard good things about it. But this movie also includes a cast of characters, the crew, and some of the passengers, in which one of the passengers is the cause of all the ruckus. This passenger happens to be Dan, played by Angus Sampson, who was in They Will Kill You recently, and he also in The Lincoln Lawyer. I think in They Will Kill You, he was the private detective where the main character is finding her sister. If I recall correctly, I think that's who he played. So this is a pretty typical movie that, I don't know, it feels like something from the 80s or 90s, and one of those kind of disaster movies. You're following a bunch of different characters as they get to the airport, as they're making their way to the flights, as they interact with some of the flight crew before they get on the flight. And it definitely felt like a movie that shouldn't be released in May, because May through July is kind of when all the big blockbusters are supposed to release. It's like the key part of the year outside the winter season. And this definitely felt more of a September, January release movie, but they had a lot of marketing to push this film. Visuals here, I think, is probably some of the weakest part of the film. The acting is fine. I don't know, there's not like really bad acting. There's just the characters are written poorly and there's not really enough depth to them. But I think the biggest thing that took me out of this film was just, if you could feel it was shot on set. The lighting felt a little off. It felt very bright for where they are. It definitely felt very blue screen, green screen, where all the backgrounds are fake. It felt like it was shot in like a water pool somewhere. It definitely did not feel like you were watching a movie. It felt like you're watching them film the movie. The sharks are really terrible in this. I don't really like shark movies, so I haven't seen some of these other ones that have released over a couple of years because, I don't know, I find shark movies to be a little boring. I did like Jaws, I did like Deep Blue Sea, but some of the recent releases, not really a big fan of. There's a scene in this movie where you see a shark fin, and I was like, is there somebody under the water just with a stick with a fin on it? That's what it looked like. And there's a lot of scenes that are, I guess, very Jaws inspired, where you kind of see a little bit under the water. There are very few kills in this that are interesting. They're all pretty cutaway shots. You don't really see a lot. And a lot of it's just sharks nipping at people's feet and pulling them underwater, which is pointless in a movie that heavily focused on shark attacks. I had to look it up because I didn't know if it was rated R or not. It might be rated R for language because I think I've seen worse things in PG-13 movies in regards to death scenes and how creatures kill people. So overall, I didn't really enjoy this movie that much. The plane crash, I think, is the strongest point. Might be worth watching if you want to see the plane crash. The acting here is fine for the material given. You know, it's kind of cheesy, a little melodramatic. I didn't find any of the characters interesting in this movie or enough to really care about them. And the shark kills are mostly mundane. Some of them are off screen or you don't really know if the person died or not. So if you're into watching something that gives you that 90s, 80s feeling disaster movie, you might like what you see here. So I'd give Deep Water 2 stars. And if you're still here, thanks for watching. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe if you've liked these video reviews. I'll be continue doing it for the rest of the year and beyond. I do like to talk about the spoilers a little bit to go a little deeper into a couple areas that I wanted to kind of put some more insights into. This time I want to talk about the crash, shark attacks, and then some of the characters. The crash itself is the strongest part of this movie, where it is caused by the battery wire sparking and basically taking out the luggage and hitting some, I assume, are oxygen tanks that are in the belly of the plane that kind of blows everything up. And so there is a lot of action and how they're trying to land this plane, slowly losing power. So I actually learned something in this movie is that there's one point where they do lose power as one of the engines gets taken out. And to be able to do some of the maneuvers or try to slow the plane down so it doesn't completely get destroyed when it lands in the water, they use this ram air turbine, which is basically a mini propeller that drops down, and as it spins, it generates power, which I thought was interesting because I didn't know that was a thing on airplanes. I'm sure people in the aviation industry know about it, but as a normal person who knows nothing about planes really, that was kind of a cool thing to learn from this. I had to look it up because I was like, is that a real thing or is it made up for the movie? So I was glad to find out it is a real thing. When they do actually crash land, it's not in deep water, which is funny. Yeah, it is in deep water. It's kind of in the middle ocean, but they actually crash on a reef, and this is what basically tears the plane apart. I'm sure the water collision would have did the same, but the crash does allow for a little bit more unique set pieces, as that parts of the fuselage are sitting on top of this reef in different areas. In one of the most interesting scenes is that they have, like, the tail of the plane is kind of pointing up out of the water, and there's a few characters stuck in this part, and the only way out is to really kind of swim down and go up. But they're kind of holding out at the top of the tail where all the air is at. And so I did find that kind of unique in how they used a couple different set pieces. And it wasn't just everybody sitting on rafts for the entire time. The shark attacks, I think, are the weakest point of this movie. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of the special effects seemed a little really cheesy. There was one scene where Aaron Eckhart was in a raft with this young girl. A shark jumps out and tries to bite him. I think that was probably like the best shark attack scene, but the shark also looked pretty fake. There's also a lot of scenes where you only see the shark's fins. And it's a group of sharks. It's not just one or two that are patrolling this reef. And you usually see a lot of overhead shots of the shark swimming around. And most of the deaths are literally just sharks nibbling at people's feet and then dragging them under the water. Then you just see a pool of blood. So there's not a lot of interesting death scenes in a shark movie. The most interesting one is that Dan, the guy who's the cause of everything, he actually ends up falling out of the boat and getting eaten by one of the sharks. And the funny thing about this is that everybody else in the raft, they were just tired of his crap. And you see the look on their faces like, oh, finally, at least that guy got taken out. This is towards the end of the movie where it's at nighttime. There is a local fishing vessel that is trying to get to them, but can't get to them because of the reef. The vessel gets there after they're spotted and verified by this Coast Guard chopper of some kind. And the sharks end up taking out the Coast Guard chopper because they're bringing down one of the Coast Guard people who did jump in the water and kind of swim over to the raft. And everybody in the raft is yelling at them to stop. And shark comes out, takes out the Coast Guard's leg, and then jumps back up and is dragging the Coast Guard under. But instead of hitting the release knob from the cable, nope, shark ends up taking the helicopter down. The rope ends up breaking and then flying across the water and actually flips the raft they're in. And so the people are trying to get back into the boat. And this is where that Dan guy, this is before he gets eaten. He is trying to get back in the boat and actually push somebody in the water, and that person gets killed. So the scene where he gets killed, a lot of people are not sad for him. Characters in this movie, I don't know, they're all just generic. You got Jan, who's the jerk. You know, he pushes someone out of the boat to save himself. He eventually gets eaten. You have the kids. There's two kids in the movies. They get separated. Their parents are in the trailer who are trying to join the Mile High Club. So they're in the bathroom when the wreck happens. They end up, hitting their heads. The way they die is weird because you do see them later after the wreckage and they're floating on part of the fuselage, but Dad gets pulled under by the sharks. You never see the mom get killed. I think she probably died from head injuries. Kids are a little annoying and cause some problems. There's a scene with the young boy who is with one of the flight attendants who was injured, and they're kind of off on their own in this one raft. And there's a scene where he's trying to get back in the boat, and it looks like he might have got killed off screen, but you find out later that they find him because after they're rescued and on this fishing trolley, there's a scene in the movie earlier where there's a tracker on this kid, and the young girl remembers that there's a tracker on him, and they're able to find him and rescue him and the flight attendant. There's the pilots who are kind of generic. Aaron Eckhart is trying to run away from things. Ben Kingsley's character is I think, divorced and at the end of his career, and doesn't really seem like he enjoys life. I don't know, because he does get stuck in the pilot seat. He basically tells people to leave and leave them there as the water implodes. There's also some, sports jocks on here, esports team, some conflicts with them, conflicts with like a love story between the esports team's captain and one of the players. It's just, I don't know, there's just a lot of cheesy stuff in it that I did not care for. I would highly recommend waiting for this to go on streaming if you're interested in it, because really the only interesting part of the movie is the plane crash. So definitely a pass in the theater. But if you're still here, thank you. Thank you to all the new subscribers. My channel is growing slowly, so I really appreciate everybody who stopped by. If you're new here, remember to hit that like and subscribe. Leave a comment. Let me know if you ever